Welcome back to English Medium. I'm your host, and today I want to talk about something that affects every single one of us every single day, yet nobody really teaches us about it properly. Money. Think about it for a moment. You have spent thousands of hours in school learning about history, mathematics, physics, and chemistry. But how many hours did anyone spend teaching you how money actually works? How to manage it? How to grow it? How to use it to build the life you truly want? For most people, the answer is zero. And because of this gap in our education, we have billions of intelligent, hardworking people walking around confused about their finances. They work diligently. They earn good salaries, but somehow the money always slips away. Somehow there is never enough. Somehow, they end up stressed and frustrated, not understanding why they cannot seem to get ahead. If you have ever felt this way, if you have ever wondered where your money goes, if you have ever felt trapped by your financial situation, this video is for you. Before we begin, if you are new to the English Medium family, please hit that like button. It helps us grow and bring you more content like this. And subscribe to the channel because we release videos every week filled with insights that will genuinely change how you see the world. Now, let's dive into 12 powerful principles about money that will transform not just your finances, but your entire relationship with wealth and abundance. Principle 1. Money is not the enemy of peace, ignorance is. The real problem with money anxiety. Let me start with something that might sound controversial. Most people have been taught that money is somehow evil or dangerous. They have heard phrases like, money is the root of all evil, or the rich are greedy. And because of these beliefs, they approach money with fear and guilt. A young woman once told me something that broke my heart. She said, "My parents always fought about money. Every argument in our house was about money. So I grew up believing that having more money would just create more problems. So why even try?" This woman, intelligent and capable, was literally sabotaging her own financial success because of a belief she had inherited without ever consciously choosing it. And she is not alone. Millions of people carry the same unconscious belief. Money itself is not the problem. Money is a tool, completely neutral. A knife can be used to prepare a beautiful meal or to harm someone. The knife itself is neutral. The user determines the outcome. The same is true with money. The problem is not money. The problem is ignorance about money. When you do not understand how money works, when you do not know the rules of the financial game, you become vulnerable. You make poor decisions. You get trapped in debt. You miss opportunities. You work hard your whole life and end up with nothing because nobody ever explained to you how to keep what you earn. But here is the powerful truth. Money is not your enemy. Lack of knowledge is your enemy. The moment you decide to learn, the moment you start asking better questions about money, everything begins to change. It does not happen overnight. It requires patience and consistent effort, but it is absolutely possible for anyone to transform their financial life regardless of where they are starting from. A man came from a very poor family. His parents had never had stable income. They lived paycheck to paycheck. Everything he inherited was financial struggle and stress. But at age 25, he made a decision. He was going to learn about money. He started reading books about personal finance. He watched educational videos. He asked questions. He studied how successful people thought about money differently. It was not a quick fix. It took years, but by age 35, he had completely transformed his financial situation. He had saved enough to invest. He had built a small business. He had financial stability, and most importantly, he had peace of mind. The difference between age 25 and 35 was not his salary increasing dramatically. His salary did increase, but that was not the main factor. The main difference was knowledge. Knowledge about how to manage money, knowledge about how to build wealth, knowledge about the rules of the financial game that nobody had ever bothered to explain to him before he took responsibility for learning it himself. The cost of financial ignorance. Let me be very honest about the cost of not learning about money. In my country, I see people earning excellent salaries ending up in serious debt. I see educated professionals living with tremendous financial stress. I see families fighting about money constantly. I see people unable to retire because they never learned how to manage what they earned. And the saddest part, these are not stupid people. These are intelligent, hardworking, good people who simply never got proper education about finances. The education system failed them. Their families did not teach them, and society does not emphasize it enough. So they go through life making the same mistakes that millions of others make, never knowing there was a different way. Every financial mistake you make costs you. Every bad decision about money takes something from you. Sometimes it takes money directly. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it takes peace of mind. And the worst part is, many of these mistakes are completely avoidable. They are not the result of bad luck or circumstances beyond your control. They are the result of not knowing better. But today, in this moment, you are choosing to know better. You are watching this because you have decided that your financial life is important enough to invest your time in learning about it. That decision, right there, puts you ahead of most people. Principle 2. Your paycheck is not your income. What you keep is. Understanding what really matters. Here is a concept that shifts everything about how you think about money. Your paycheck is not your income. What you actually keep after all your expenses is your income. Let me explain why this distinction is so important. Two people work at the same company. They have the same job title. They earn exactly the same salary. Let's say they each earn 200,000 rupees every month. On paper, they have the same income, but in reality, they do not. One of them spends 190,000 rupees every month on his lifestyle. He lives in an expensive apartment. He drives an expensive car. He eats at expensive restaurants. He buys new clothes frequently. He takes fancy vacations. At the end of the month, he has only 10,000 rupees left. The other person lives much more simply. She spends 120,000 rupees every month. She lives in a modest apartment. She uses public transportation. She cooks at home. She is mindful about her purchases. At the end of the month, she has 80,000 rupees left. Who has the higher income? According to the company, they earn the same. But in reality, the second person has an income that is 8 times higher than the first person. Because income is not what you earn. Income is what you keep. This is a fundamental misunderstanding that keeps most people poor. They focus on earning more money. They think, if I just get a raise, if I just get a better job, if I just earn more, my problems will be solved. But without understanding the difference between what you earn and what you keep, earning more money does not actually solve anything. It just gives you more money to spend. A study was done of people who suddenly won large amounts of money through lotteries. One would think that winning millions of rupees would solve their financial problems forever, right? But the research showed something shocking. Most lottery winners were back in the same financial situation within 5 years. Some were even worse off than before. Why? Because winning the lottery did not change how they thought about money. It did not change their spending habits. It did not teach them how to manage what they had. So they earned more, but they kept the same proportion, which was nothing. And eventually, the large sum dwindled away. Now, let me tell you about a different person. A woman worked as a teacher. Her salary was modest, nothing spectacular, but she made a commitment. Every single month, no matter what, she would live on 70% of her income. That meant 30% of her income was off limits for spending. It was not optional. It was not flexible. It was a law to herself. In the beginning, this was difficult. She had to say no to things. She had to live more simply than many of her friends. But she stayed committed. Every month, that 30% went into savings and investments. Year after year, she did this consistently. 15 years later, something remarkable happened. Her investments had grown to the point where they were producing enough income every month to cover all her basic living expenses. She was financially free. She did not have to work anymore unless she wanted to. And she was still earning the same teacher's salary. The difference between her and her colleagues who earned the same salary was simple. They kept spending everything they earned, so they kept having nothing. She kept a significant portion of what she earned, so she built something real. The psychology of keeping money. There is a psychological shift that happens when you start thinking in terms of what you keep rather than what you earn. When you focus on your paycheck, you feel like you are never earning enough. There is always someone earning more. There is always a reason why your salary is not adequate. You feel like a victim of your circumstances. But when you focus on what you keep, suddenly you have power. You realize that your salary is only one half of the equation. The other half is your spending. And spending is something you control. You cannot control what your company pays you, at least not immediately. But you absolutely can control how much you spend. And that control is power. That control is freedom. That control is the foundation of financial stability. A young man was frustrated with his financial situation. He complained constantly about his salary. He said it was impossible to save money with what he earned. He said he needed a raise to get ahead. He was stuck in victim mentality. His friend, who earned the same salary, suggested they do an exercise. They tracked every single rupee he spent for 1 month. Just tracked it, without judgment. When they reviewed the data at the end of the month, he was shocked. He was spending money on things he had completely forgotten about, subscriptions he was not using, food he was buying but not eating, small purchases that added up to huge amounts. He had not realized because he was not paying attention. Once he saw it clearly, he made some changes. He canceled unused subscriptions. He started cooking at home. He was more intentional about purchases. He did not earn any more money, but suddenly he had money left over at the end of the month. Within 6 months, he had saved enough for an emergency fund. Within a year, he had started investing. The money was always there. He just was not keeping it. Principle 3. Debt is not a tool for the poor. It is a trap for the unprepared. Understanding the true cost of debt. If there is one tool that keeps more people poor than anything else, it is debt. And the strange thing is that debt has been made to seem normal and even smart. You are encouraged to take student loans for education. You are encouraged to take home loans. You are encouraged to use credit cards. You are encouraged to buy things on easy monthly installments. And in some cases, strategic use of debt can be wise. But most people use debt without actually understanding what they are doing. They are making an agreement with someone else to give them money today in exchange for paying back more money tomorrow. And that more money is called interest. Let me show you exactly how this works with a very simple example. A young woman needs a new phone. The phone costs 50,000 rupees. She does not have 50,000 rupees right now, so she decides to buy it on an installment plan. She will pay 2,000 rupees every month for 25 months. Seems reasonable, right? She will have the phone now, and she will pay for it gradually. But let's look at what is actually happening. She is paying 50,000 rupees for something that costs 50,000 rupees, which seems fair. But wait, there are interest charges. By the time she finishes paying for the phone, she will have paid a total of 55,000 rupees. She has paid 5,000 rupees extra just for the convenience of having the phone now instead of waiting to save up for it. That extra 5,000 rupees, that is the cost of not waiting. That is the cost of wanting something before she had the money for it. Now, this is just one phone. Imagine this happening across multiple purchases. A woman buys a phone on installment. She buys furniture on installment. She buys a motorcycle on installment. She buys clothes on a credit card. She takes a personal loan for a vacation. Suddenly, she is paying interest on multiple things. She is working not just to live, but to pay the extra cost of getting things before she was ready. And this is where debt becomes a trap. A man came to me completely stressed about his financial situation. He was earning a good salary, but he was in serious debt. He had a home loan, a car loan, multiple credit card debts, and various personal loans. When I asked him why, his answer was honest. He had not intended to get into so much debt. It had just happened gradually. He bought one thing he could not afford, so he financed it. Then he needed something else, so he financed that too. And slowly, without even realizing it, he had obligated his future to pay for his past. Now, every month, before he even got paid, his salary was already spoken for. 70% of his income was already committed to paying off debts. He had no freedom. He had no choices. He could not leave a job he disliked because he needed the income to pay his debts. He could not take a risk on something he believed in because he had debt obligations. He was a slave to his past decisions. And the worst part? He had bought things that were no longer making him happy. The furniture that he had financed 5 years ago was outdated. The phone he had bought on installment was not even useful anymore. But he was still paying for it. He was still paying for things that had long since lost their value. The truth about good debt and bad debt. Now, I want to be very careful here. I do not want to say that all debt is bad. That is not true. There is something called strategic debt that can actually help you build wealth. But the key word is strategic. Most debt is not strategic. It is emotional. It is impulsive. It is the result of wanting something without having the ability to pay for it. But strategic debt is different. Strategic debt is when you borrow money to invest in something that will generate more wealth than the cost of the debt itself. For example, a man borrows money to buy a property. He rents out that property, and the rental income covers the loan payments with extra left over. That is strategic debt. The debt is actually generating wealth for him. Or a woman borrows money to start a business. The business generates profit that exceeds the cost of the loan. That is strategic debt. The debt is helping her build something valuable. But here is the problem. Most people cannot tell the difference. They think that buying something on a loan is the same as investing in something on a loan. It is not. One is consumption. The other is investment. One makes you poorer. The other can make you richer. Before you take on any debt, you need to ask yourself a very clear question. Will this debt help me build wealth, or will this debt consume my wealth? Will the thing I am borrowing money for produce more value than the cost of borrowing?
If the answer is no, then the debt is a trap. Do not take it, no matter how convenient it is, no matter how easy the monthly payment seems. No matter how much you want the thing, if it is not generating wealth, it is consuming it. and consumed wealth is gone forever. A young couple wanted to buy a house. They had saved 50% of the price. The remaining 50% they would need to borrow from a bank. But before they took on that debt, they asked the right question. Is this house going to generate wealth for us, or is it going to consume wealth? Here is how they analyzed it. The house would cost 100 lakhs. They had saved 50 lakhs themselves. They would need a loan of 50 lakhs. The monthly payment would be 40,000 rupees. The rental value of a similar house in the area was 35,000 rupees. So the house itself was not generating enough income to cover the loan payments. It was a consumption purchase, not an investment. So they made a different decision. They bought a smaller house that they could afford with their savings. They rented it out for 15,000 rupees monthly, which covered the property taxes and maintenance. Then they took a smaller loan and bought a second property specifically for investment. This property was in a developing area with high growth potential. It was purchased below market rate with the intention to sell in 5 years at a profit. That debt was strategic because it was going to generate wealth. In the end, they owned 2 properties. One was their home, which was not generating income, but was not draining them either. The other was generating steady rental income and was expected to appreciate significantly. This couple understood the difference between strategic and non-strategic debt, and their financial life was completely different because of it. Principle 4. Every purchase is a choice about your future. The hidden cost of casual spending. Here is something that most people do not think about when they make a purchase. Every time you spend money on something, you are not just buying that thing. You are making a choice about your future. You are saying no to something else that you could have done with that money. This is called opportunity cost, and it is one of the most important concepts in personal finance that nobody talks about. Let me explain with an example. A man wants to buy an expensive coffee every day, just one coffee. It costs 200 rupees. Seems small, right? Just 200 rupees. What is the big deal? But let's look at what is actually happening. If he buys this coffee every single day, that is 200 rupees times 30 days, which is 6,000 rupees every month. That is 72,000 rupees every year. Now, here is the question. What else could he do with 72,000 rupees every year? He could invest it. If he invested 72,000 rupees every year for 30 years at an average return of 12%, he would have over 1 crore rupees. 1 crore from coffee. This is not an exaggeration. This is simple mathematics. When you understand this, suddenly that coffee does not look so cheap anymore. It looks like a choice between a cup of coffee today and 1 crore rupees in 30 years. Most people choose the coffee without even thinking about the choice they are making. This is the secret that keeps most people poor. They make thousands of small purchases without ever adding them up. They do not see the connection between buying a coffee today and having no money 30 years from now. But the connection is absolutely real. A woman tracked every single purchase she made for 1 month. Just tracked it without changing her behavior yet. At the end of the month, she found that she had spent money on things she could barely remember. A coffee here, a snack there, a small gift, a magazine, new shoes, a meal at a restaurant. Small purchases that seemed insignificant in the moment, but when she added them all up, they totaled to 10,000 rupees for 1 month. 30,000 rupees for 3 months. 120,000 rupees for 1 year. She was shocked. She had no idea that these small, thoughtless purchases added up to such large amounts. But here is the important part. Once she saw it, once she understood the real cost, she made different choices. She started making coffee at home. She started planning her meals instead of eating out impulsively. She started questioning every purchase, not in a depressing, restrictive way, but in a conscious way. She was making the choice deliberately rather than unconsciously. Within 1 year of these small changes, she had saved 120,000 rupees, money that she would have just spent without thinking. With that money, she started a small investment. After 5 years, that investment had doubled. The money that came from being conscious about her coffee habit had turned into something significant. The psychology of marketing and spending. Let me be very blunt here. There are companies spending billions of rupees every year trying to convince you to spend your money on things you do not need. They hire psychologists. They study human behavior. They use sophisticated marketing techniques. They create artificial urgency and artificial need. And they do this all day, every day, through television, through social media, through billboards, through every channel they can reach you through. And they are very good at what they do. The average person is exposed to thousands of advertisements every single day. And most of these advertisements are designed to trigger an emotional response rather than to provide you with actual information. They are designed to make you feel like you are missing out. They are designed to make you feel inferior without their product. They are designed to make you feel like you need something that you never even knew existed until 5 minutes ago. And if you are not aware of this, if you do not have your guard up, you will spend a huge portion of your income on things that you never actually needed. A young woman was shopping online one day. She saw an advertisement for a beautiful handbag. It was on sale. The advertisement showed a stylish woman using the handbag and looking confident. The copy said something like, "Be the woman you want to be. Own your style." And suddenly, without thinking much about it, she bought the handbag. It cost 5,000 rupees. When it arrived, she was excited for about 2 weeks. But then the excitement wore off, and she realized something. She had bought the handbag because of an emotional trigger created by the advertisement, not because she actually needed it. In fact, she already owned 2 other handbags that were perfectly fine. The advertisement had made her feel like she was missing something, and the purchase had temporarily made her feel better. But the feeling did not last. And she was 5,000 rupees poorer. Now, this is just one handbag, but imagine if she did this once a week. Once a week, an emotional purchase of 5,000 rupees. That is 20,000 rupees a month. 240,000 rupees a year. Over the course of her life, those emotional purchases from well-designed advertisements would cost her millions. The solution is awareness. When you are aware that companies are trying to manipulate you, you can defend against it. A simple practice is the 24-hour rule. When you want to buy something, you wait 24 hours. If you still want it after 24 hours, then you buy it. If you have forgotten about it, then it was just an impulse triggered by marketing. This simple practice saves thousands of rupees every year because most impulse purchases are forgotten within hours. The desire is artificial. It was created by marketing, not by a real need. Once the marketing stops, the desire disappears. But during that 24 hours, you have given yourself the chance to notice this. You have given yourself the space to make a conscious choice rather than an emotional one. Principle 5. Wealth is not built by earning more, it is built by keeping more. The earning myth. There is a widespread myth in our society. The myth is that the way to build wealth is to earn more money. Get a higher salary, get a better job, work harder, climb the corporate ladder. Earn more, earn more, earn more. And our entire system is built around this belief. We celebrate people who earn high salaries. We measure success by income. We teach our children to focus on getting good jobs that pay well. And yes, earning more money is helpful, but here is the truth that nobody talks about. Earning more money is not the primary factor in building wealth. Keeping more money is. Two people have the same job and the same salary of 100,000 rupees per month. The first person earns more than he spends. He spends 60,000 rupees and keeps 40,000 rupees. The second person spends 110,000 rupees and goes into debt by 10,000 rupees every month. Now, the second person could get a promotion tomorrow. His salary could increase to 150,000 rupees. But unless he changes his spending habits, he will now spend 140,000 rupees and still be in debt by 10,000 rupees every month. Earning more just means he has more to spend. Earning more does not build wealth unless you change your relationship with keeping money. I know a man who made this realization at age 45. Until that point, his entire life strategy had been focused on earning more. He had worked very hard. He had received promotions. His salary had increased substantially, but somehow he was still struggling financially. He had more debt, not less. He was more stressed, not less. His strategy had failed. So he made a dramatic decision. Instead of focusing on earning more, he would focus on keeping more. He looked at his spending and made cuts, not depressing cuts where he felt deprived, but conscious cuts where he eliminated wasteful spending. He stopped buying expensive things to impress people. He stopped eating out as frequently. He did not need the most expensive apartment in the best area. He moved to a more modest place that was perfectly comfortable. He bought a used car instead of a new one. He started cooking at home instead of ordering food. These changes were not comfortable at first. There was some resistance, but he stuck with them. Within 1 year, he was keeping 50% of his income instead of 10%. Within 5 years, his kept money had turned into significant investments. By age 55, he was financially independent. He did not need to work anymore. And here is the remarkable thing. His salary at age 55 was not dramatically higher than it had been at age 45. His circumstances had not changed dramatically. What had changed was his decision to focus on keeping money instead of just earning money. The inverse relationship between income and debt. There is something that researchers have noticed that seems counterintuitive. People with higher incomes often have higher debt. In fact, there is sometimes an inverse relationship. The more someone earns, the more debt they tend to have. Why is this? Because earning more allows them to borrow more. A bank will give a 50,000 rupee loan to someone earning 1 lakh rupees. But they will give a 50 lakh rupee loan to someone earning 1 crore rupees. So the person earning more borrows proportionally more, and suddenly their higher income is consumed by higher debt payments. They feel richer, but they are actually more financially dependent because they have more obligations. In contrast, someone earning less who is disciplined about keeping money and not borrowing ends up in a much better financial position. They have less, but they owe less. They have no monthly obligations. They have freedom, and that freedom is worth more than any salary increase. A woman earning 2 lakh rupees per month had 30 lakh rupees in debt. A man earning $50,000 per month had no debt. Who was wealthier? The woman had a higher income, but the man had more actual wealth. The woman had more money coming in, but the man had more money staying in. And because he had no debt, he had options. If he wanted to change jobs, he could. If he wanted to take time off work, he could. If a business opportunity came up, he could take it. He had freedom. The woman, despite her higher income, had very little freedom. If anything disrupted her income, she would be in trouble immediately. She was living on a financial knife edge, constantly stressed despite her high salary. This is the situation that most high-income earners find themselves in. They have good salaries, but they have no actual wealth because they are not keeping any of it. Principle 6. Time is your most valuable asset, not money. The power of starting early. If I were to ask you what is more valuable, time or money, most people would say time. Time is life. Money is just a tool. But here is the strange thing. Even though most people intellectually understand that time is more valuable, they do not act according to this belief. They waste time as if they have infinite amounts of it. They postpone important decisions. They put off learning. They say they will invest when they are older. They say they will start a business when they have more time. They say they will focus on their health when they are retired. They treat time like it is unlimited, while treating money like it is precious. But the reality is the opposite. Money can be earned again. If you lose money, you can work to earn it back. But time, once it is gone forever. You cannot earn back time. You cannot get back the years you wasted. And this becomes painfully clear when you understand something called compound growth. Compound growth is one of the most powerful forces in wealth building. Here is how it works. You invest a certain amount of money. It grows by a certain percentage. The next year, it grows by the same percentage, but now it is growing on a larger base because of last year's growth.
The third year, it grows even more because you are getting growth on the growth. Over decades, this compounds into something extraordinary. Let me show you with actual numbers. Two people decide to invest. The first person, David, is 20 years old. He invests 10,000 rupees every month for 15 years. That is a total investment of 1.8 million rupees. Then he stops. He never invests another rupee. He leaves his investment alone and lets it grow. The second person, Maria, is 35 years old. She also invests 10,000 rupees every month. But she does this for 30 years. That is a total investment of 3.6 million rupees. Who has more money at the end? You might think it is Maria because she invested twice as much. But that is not correct. When they both reach age 65, David, who invested less than half the amount that Maria did, has more money than Maria. Why? Because his money had 10 more years to compound. 10 years might not sound like much, but in wealth building, those 10 years are worth more than all the other 30 years combined. This is the power of time. I know this sounds like mathematical manipulation, but it is not. It is real. And it is the reason why starting early in wealth building is so critically important. A young woman was 22 years old when she started her first job. Her salary was modest, and she could only save 2,000 rupees every month. Her friends thought she was crazy. 2,000 rupees? It seemed so small. Why bother? It would take forever to amount to anything, but she kept doing it anyway. Every month, without fail, that 2,000 rupees went into an investment. By age 35, when she wanted to buy a house, she had saved enough for a down payment without taking any additional loan. By age 45, she was financially stable. By age 55, she was wealthy. She had not earned an exceptionally high salary. She did not win a lottery. She did not have any special luck. She had simply started early and been consistent. Her friends, who had laughed at her 2,000 rupee monthly investment, were still struggling financially at age 55. The difference was not intelligence or luck, it was time. She had given her money the time to compound. They had not. The cost of procrastination. Procrastination in financial matters is extremely expensive. Every year you wait to start saving and investing, you are losing compound growth that you can never get back. Let me show you the cost with a very clear example. A man waits until age 30 to start investing. He invests 10,000 rupees every month for 35 years until age 65. He accumulates 3.5 million rupees invested. His friend, who was more disciplined, started investing at age 25. She also invested 10,000 rupees every month for 35 years. She invested the same amount, 3.5 million rupees. But because she started 5 years earlier, her money had 5 more years to compound. At age 65, even though they invested the same total amount, she has nearly double what he has. 5 years cost him a fortune. 100% return on his money gone, just because he waited 5 years. And I am talking about investing the same amount for the same duration. The advantage came solely from starting earlier. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. The same is true with wealth building. The best time to start was 20 years ago. The second best time is today, not next year, not when you have more money, not when you feel more ready. Today, because every day you wait, you are losing compound growth that you can never recover. I have met people who waited until age 45 to start investing seriously. They would say things like, "I wish I had started at 25 like my friend did." But you know what? The fact that they had not started at 25 was in the past and could not be changed. The only thing they could change was starting today instead of waiting until age 50. And that is what I would tell them. You cannot change the past. You cannot recover the years you have already waited. But you can change the future by starting today. Yes, you will have less compound growth than if you had started earlier, but you will have more compound growth than if you wait another year. Principle 7. Your financial plan should include the things that money cannot buy. The purpose of money beyond money. Here is something that is rarely discussed in personal finance education. Money is important. Financial stability is important. But money is not the most important thing in life. And if you build your entire life around making money, you will win money and lose everything else. Think about what money actually provides. It provides security. It provides options. It provides freedom from certain stresses. These are valuable things. But money does not provide happiness directly. Money does not provide meaning. Money does not provide relationships or love or purpose. I have met very rich people who were miserable. And I have met people with very little money who were genuinely happy. The difference was what they were doing with their life beyond making money. The happy people, whether rich or poor, had found meaning in their work or their relationships or their service to others. The miserable people were focused only on accumulating more wealth. A man built a successful business. By age 40, he was very wealthy. He had everything he thought he wanted: a large house, expensive cars, international vacations. But he was empty inside. He was working 70 hours a week. He had no time for his family. He had no close friends because he was always working. His health was deteriorating. He was taking medication for anxiety and stress. He had won the money game but lost at life. One day, his health forced him to stop working. A serious illness required months of recovery. During those months when he could not work, he had to confront the emptiness he had been running from. He realized that his entire life had been about making money, and it had cost him his health, his relationships, and his peace of mind. When he returned to work, he made a different choice. He reduced his working hours. He spent more time with his family. He developed hobbies that had nothing to do with making money. His income decreased, but his happiness increased. He was less rich by money standards, but richer by every other measure that actually mattered. On the other hand, I know a woman who earned very little money, but she had designed her financial life in a way that gave her freedom. She worked part-time as a teacher. She did not make much money, but she made enough. With her free time, she volunteered with underprivileged children. She spent time with her family. She had hobbies that brought her joy. She traveled when she could. She was not wealthy by money standards, but she was wealthy by every measure that actually gave her life meaning. Balancing financial goals with life goals. The goal is not to be poor and be happy, and the goal is not to be rich and be miserable. The goal is to be financially stable enough that money is not a source of stress, while also ensuring that you are living a life that has meaning and joy. This requires a balance. You need to manage your finances responsibly. You need to be conscious about money. You need to plan and save and invest. But you do not need to sacrifice your entire life to do this. In fact, if you are smart about money, if you are conscious about it, you do not need to work as hard as most people. A woman I know earned a good salary, but she was very conscious about her spending. She did not buy things just to impress people. She invested consistently. Within 10 years, her investments were producing enough income to cover her living expenses. But instead of quitting work immediately, she made a different choice. She continued working, but she cut her hours. She now works 3 days a week instead of 5. She has more free time, but she is still working. Why would she do this? Because she understands something important. Work in itself can be meaningful. Having a purpose can be valuable. The problem is not working. The problem is being forced to work against your will because you have no other choice. She had given herself the choice. She could work or not work, and she chose to work, but on her own terms. Here is my suggestion. Instead of starting with finances, start with your life. What do you actually want? Do you want to travel? Do you want to spend time with family? Do you want to work on something you believe in? Do you want to have hobbies and interests? Do you want to help others? Figure out what your life should look like. Then figure out what finances that life requires. Then design your financial plan to support that life. Most people do it backward. They focus on making money first and hope that eventually they will have time to live. But that day never comes. The rich person is always chasing more. The person who is conscious about money from the beginning can design a life that they actually want to live, and then make the money support that design. Principle 8. Understand your relationship with money. The unconscious patterns we inherit. Every single person has a relationship with money, and that relationship was shaped long before they were old enough to make conscious choices about it. It was shaped by what they observed growing up. If your parents fought about money constantly, you might have developed a belief that money is a source of conflict. If your parents never had enough money, you might have developed a belief that you are destined to struggle. If your parents were very wealthy, you might believe that money is easy to come by. If your parents never talked about money, you might have shame around discussing finances. These beliefs, absorbed unconsciously in childhood, sit underneath every financial decision you make as an adult, and most people never examine them. They just follow the patterns that were set up for them. A woman grew up in a household where her father was constantly worried about money. He lost his job once, and the family went through a difficult period. After that, even after he got a new job, he was always stressed about money. He would save compulsively. He would worry about unexpected expenses. He was very cautious about spending. His daughter absorbed this anxiety. As an adult, even though she earned a good salary and was financially stable, she could not shake the feeling that something bad was going to happen. She would not spend money on things she wanted because she was always waiting for a disaster. She saved obsessively. She was always anxious. She had inherited her father's financial anxiety without even realizing it. Her actual financial situation was stable, but her belief about her financial situation was not. Until she examined this belief and understood where it came from, she could not change it. Once she recognized the pattern, once she understood that her belief was based on her father's experience, not her own, she was able to make different choices. She still saved, but she did not save obsessively. She still was cautious, but she was not paranoid. She was able to find a balance that worked for her actual life. Another person grew up in a household where his parents spent everything they earned. They never saved. They never invested. They lived from paycheck to paycheck. As an adult, he followed the same pattern without even thinking about it. He earned a good salary, but he spent everything. He went into debt. He was always struggling. He blamed his low salary, but his friend with a lower salary was doing fine financially. The difference was not the salary. It was the unconscious pattern he had inherited from his parents. He believed that saving was not possible. He believed that he was destined to struggle. These beliefs, not external circumstances, were creating his financial situation. Once he became aware of these beliefs, once he understood that they were not facts but rather learned patterns, he was able to change them. It was not easy, it required conscious effort, but it was possible. Here is an exercise that can be transformative. Write down the beliefs you have about money. Write them all down without filtering or judging them. Maybe you believe that rich people are greedy. Maybe you believe that money is evil. Maybe you believe that you are not smart enough to manage money. Maybe you believe that making money requires doing something unethical. Maybe you believe that you will never have enough. Write them all down. Then, for each belief, ask yourself a question. Is this actually true? Where did I learn this? Is this helping me or hurting me? Many of these beliefs are completely false. They are not truths. They're just stories you have been told or have assumed to be true. Once you identify a belief that is not serving you, you can consciously choose to replace it with a different belief. A woman believed that she was bad with money. She had been told this by her parents. You are so careless with money. You will never be good at managing finances. She had believed this for 40 years, until one day she decided to examine this belief. She asked herself, is this actually true? She looked at her actual behavior. She had always paid her bills on time. She had never been in serious debt. She was actually quite responsible with money. The belief did not match reality. She realized that her parents had said this because they were anxious about money, not because it was actually true about her. Once she saw this, she could release the belief. She started to trust herself with money. And ironically, her financial situation improved because she started making confident financial decisions instead of anxious ones. Your beliefs about money shape your financial life as much as or more than your actual circumstances. If you believe you can build wealth, you will take actions that build wealth. If you believe you can't, you will take actions that confirm that belief. The belief comes first. The actions follow. The results follow the actions. If you want different results, you have to change the belief. This is not magical thinking. This is simply how human psychology works. We make decisions based on our beliefs, even if those beliefs are false. Principle 9. Money is a skill, not a talent. Learning and practicing financial skills. One of the most liberating realizations you can have is this: financial success is not dependent on talent. It is not something you are born with or without. It is a skill, and any skill can be learned. This is important because many people believe that they are simply bad with money, as if it is some innate quality they are stuck with. But it is not. If you are bad with money, it is not because of your nature. It is because you have not learned the skills yet. And unlike talent, which some people have more of naturally, skill can absolutely be developed through practice and learning. Think about any skill you have. Can you cook? Can you play a musical instrument? Can you play a sport? Can you drive a car? None of these came naturally to you. You had to learn them. You had to practice them. You probably made mistakes when you were learning, but through consistent practice, you became skilled. The same is true with money management. You probably made mistakes when you were learning, but through consistent practice, you became skilled. The same is true with money management. At age 35, he realized he was behind and he wanted to change. He started reading books about personal finance. He took an online course. He talked to people who were good with money and asked them questions. He started practicing the skills he was learning. He kept a budget. He tracked his spending. He made a plan to pay off his debt. He started investing. He made mistakes, of course. He overspent one month. He made a poor investment decision, but he learned from each mistake. Within 5 years, he had transformed his financial situation. He had paid off his debt. He had built an emergency fund. He had started serious investments. All because he decided to learn a skill. There was nothing special about him. He had just decided that he was going to become skilled at managing money, and he put in the practice required to develop that skill. Financial skills include many things. Budgeting is a skill. Understanding how investments work is a skill. Understanding debt is a skill. Negotiating is a skill. Making career decisions is a skill. Marketing yourself for higher income is a skill. Starting a business is a skill. All of these can be learned. None of them require special talent. They require learning and practice. If you are weak in any area, you can improve by studying and practicing. The fact that you were not taught these skills as a child is not your fault. But at this point, if you do not have them, it is your responsibility to develop them. And the good news is, they are absolutely learnable. Creating a learning plan. Here is what I recommend. Identify the financial skills you need to develop. Do you need to learn how to budget? Do you need to understand investing? Do you need to learn about taxes? Do you need to improve your earning ability? Pick 1 or 2 skills to focus on. Then create a learning plan. Find books on the subject. Find online courses. Find podcasts. Find mentors. Commit to learning for a specific period, and importantly, commit to practicing what you learn. Learning without practice is useless. You do not become good at playing the guitar by reading about it. You become good by playing it, making mistakes, and practicing more. The same is true with financial management. You have to practice what you learn. If you learn about budgeting, actually create a budget. If you learn about investing, make your first investment. If you learn about negotiating salary, practice negotiating. Small investments of time in learning can return enormous dividends in your financial life. Principle 10. Your income has a ceiling unless you build leverage. The limits of trading time for money. There is a fundamental limit to how much money you can make if your only method of earning is trading your time for money. Your time is finite. You only have 24 hours in a day. You need to sleep, you need to eat, you need some downtime. So realistically, you have about 12 to 14 hours available to work. If you are earning money by the hour, then your income is limited by how many hours you have available. Even if you work every single hour you have available, and you get paid a very high hourly rate, there is still a ceiling. There is still a maximum amount you can earn. Two people work as consultants earning very high hourly rates. Let's say they each earn 10,000 rupees per hour. Person A works 40 hours a week. That is 400,000 rupees a week, or about 16 million rupees per year. That is excellent. But person B also works 40 hours a week. He earns the same 400,000 rupees a week. They both have the same ceiling because they both are limited by the same 40 hours available each week. Now, imagine person B creates a course that teaches his consulting skills. He sells this course for 2,000 rupees and 1,000 people buy it. Suddenly, without working a single additional hour, he has earned 2 million rupees. That is additional income, not limited by his time. This is leverage. This is building something that works for you without requiring your direct time and effort. Most people never build leverage. They spend their entire lives trading time for money. They get promotions, but those promotions are just higher hourly rates or salary based on the same fundamental principle. Your time equals your income. The people who become truly wealthy are the ones who figure out how to leverage their time. They create products that earn them money. They build systems that earn them money. They invest money that earns them more money. They create intellectual property that continues earning them money long after they have done the initial work. This is the difference between linear income and leveraged income. Linear income has a ceiling. Leveraged income does not. A woman spent the first 15 years of her career trading time for money. She was a consultant. She did good work and earned a good income, but she hit a ceiling. She could not earn more without working more, and she was already working 70 hours a week. She was exhausted. She realized she had to find another way. She started writing. She wrote a book about her area of expertise. The book took 6 months to write. During those 6 months, she earned less because she was working less. But once the book was published, something changed. She started earning royalties from the book. She did not have to do anything else. Just like the course example, the book continued earning her money. She eventually left her consulting business and focused on writing multiple books and creating online courses. Now, years later, she earns more from her books and courses than she ever did from her consulting business, and she works far fewer hours. That is the power of leverage. Building your own leverage. Building leverage takes time. It takes effort. It takes sometimes working 70 hours a week while still working your regular job. But once it is built, it compounds. A young man started a YouTube channel about personal finance. He spent 3 hours every week creating videos. He did this for 2 years while working his full-time job. During those 2 years, he earned almost nothing from the channel. People thought he was wasting his time. But he kept going. In year 3, the channel started getting significant views. Brands wanted to advertise on his videos. He earned his first 1,000 rupees, then 10,000, then 100,000, then millions. He eventually quit his job because his YouTube income exceeded his job income. Now he spends 10 hours per week creating content, and it earns him enough to live on. He could even work less. That is leverage. He created something once, and it continues earning him money. Not all leverage needs to be a product or a business. You can also build leverage through investing. You invest money, and that money earns you more money. The earlier you start investing, the more leverage you build. By the time you reach age 60, that invested money has had 30 or 40 years to compound. It is earning you significant income that requires almost no effort. That is leverage. Principle 11. Rich people think about financial systems, poor people think about spending. The difference in how people think about money. There is a fundamental difference in how wealthy people think about money and how poor people think about money. And I do not mean rich in the sense of having billions. I mean rich in the sense of building and maintaining wealth. A poor person, and I say this without judgment because it is usually a result of education rather than character, a poor person thinks about spending. Can I afford to buy this? Do I have enough money for that? The focus is on transactions. Can I afford this coffee? Can I afford these shoes? Can I afford this car? Every decision is a spending decision. A wealthy person thinks about systems. A wealthy person asks, if I invest this money instead of spending it, how much could it earn over time? If I start a business in this area, what kind of monthly income could it generate? If I negotiate a higher salary, how much would that change my financial picture over my lifetime? The focus is on systems that generate money, not on individual spending decisions. Let me show you with a concrete example. Two people are offered a job with a 10% higher salary than their current job. Person A, who thinks like a poor person, immediately thinks, great, I can buy a new car. I can eat at better restaurants. I can finally buy the things I have been wanting. Person B, who thinks like a wealthy person, thinks, if I earn this extra money for the next 25 years until I retire and I invest 60% of it, how much would that compound to? That would be an extra 20 million rupees by retirement. Or if I take this higher salary and use it to start a side business, how much could that grow? The first person is thinking about how to spend the extra money. The second person is thinking about how to leverage the extra money to create systems that build wealth. Both of them get the higher salary. But their financial outcomes are completely different because of how they think about it. A man earned a salary increase of 20,000 rupees per month. Person A's friend immediately started spending the extra money. He bought a new motorcycle. He upgraded his apartment. He started eating out more frequently. Within a month, his spending had increased to match his new salary. The extra 20,000 rupees disappeared. Person B made a different choice. He continued living on his old salary and took the extra 20,000 rupees and invested it. Year after year, he did this. After 10 years, his investments had compounded to over 3 million rupees. That extra investment portfolio was generating income. It was producing returns. It was the beginning of his path to financial independence. Both of them received the same salary increase. But their financial outcomes are completely different because of how they thought about the money. One thought about spending. One thought about systems. And systems create wealth. Spending does not. Building your own financial systems. If you want to build wealth, you need to start thinking like a wealthy person. Stop thinking primarily about spending. Start thinking about systems. What are the financial systems in your life? Your primary system is your job. It exchanges your time and effort for money. But what about your other systems? Do you have an investment system? Do you have a business system? Do you have a skill you could sell that would leverage your time? Do you have intellectual property that could earn you money? Do you have a system that reduces your expenses? Start thinking about your entire financial life as a collection of systems. And instead of focusing on saving a little more here or spending less there, focus on building and optimizing your systems. A woman had a job that paid well. That was her primary system. But she wanted to build wealth faster. So she built a second system. She used her skills as a writer to do freelance writing on the side. That was system number 2. Then she invested in real estate. She bought a property, renovated it, and rented it out. That was system number 3. Then she created an online course teaching other women how to invest. That was system number 4. She now had 4 systems generating income. Her job was just one of them. If she lost her job, she would still be fine because she had 3 other systems. That is financial strength. That is wealth building. Not just having a job and managing your spending, but building multiple financial systems. Principle 12. Your money story does not have to continue. Breaking free from inherited patterns. Let me end with the most powerful principle of all. Whatever your financial situation is today, whatever your income level is, whatever your debt situation is, whatever you inherited from your family, your financial story does not have to continue the way it has been. You have the power to write a different story. This is not a motivational platitude. This is a genuine truth based on how human change actually works. Your financial situation today is the result of your past decisions, your past beliefs, and your past circumstances. But your future financial situation will be the result of your current decisions, your current beliefs, and your current actions. The past cannot be changed, but the future can be, and you have far more control over your future than you probably realize. A woman grew up in a family with no financial education. Her parents had never invested. They had never saved. They had never built anything. They lived paycheck to paycheck her entire childhood. She believed that this was just how life was, that everyone lived this way. She had no conscious models of financial success. But then, at age 25, she met someone who was building wealth deliberately. She saw that it was possible. She decided to learn. She started reading. She started asking questions. She started practicing. Within 5 years, she had completely changed her financial life. She was saving, investing, and building wealth. Her siblings, who grew up in the same family with the same lack of financial education, did not make this change. They continued the family pattern, but she broke the pattern. She chose to write a different story. The difference was not her intelligence or her circumstances. It was her choice. She chose to learn. She chose to change her beliefs. She chose to take different actions. Here is what I want you to understand. If you grew up poor, you do not have to stay poor. If you grew up in a family that was bad with money, you do not have to be bad with money. If you are currently in financial difficulty, you do not have to stay in financial difficulty. But change requires something. It requires a decision. It requires you to look at your current situation honestly and say, "This is not what I want. I am going to change it." It requires you to take responsibility for your financial life instead of blaming circumstances or other people. It requires you to learn things you were not taught. It requires you to practice skills you do not yet have. It requires you to be consistent and patient because building wealth takes time. But all of this is absolutely possible. If even one person before you has managed to do it, then it is possible for you too. And many, many people before you have managed to do it, so you can too. Your action plans starting today. Let me give you a specific action plan for starting today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. First, acknowledge your current financial situation. Do not judge it. Do not be ashamed. Just acknowledge it. What is your income? What are your debts? What are your savings? Know the number. Second, identify your most important financial goal. Is it getting out of debt? Is it saving for something? Is it building an investment portfolio? Is it starting a business? Pick one. Third, identify one skill that would help you achieve this goal. Would learning how to budget help? Would learning how to invest help? Would learning how to negotiate a higher salary help? Pick one. Fourth, commit to learning this skill. Find one book, one course, or one person who can teach you. Commit to learning for a specific period. 30 days, 90 days, whatever feels right. Fifth, take action based on what you learn. If you learned about budgeting, create a budget. If you learned about investing, make your first investment. If you learned about negotiating, practice it. Action is essential. Learning without action is useless. Do these 5 things, and I promise you, your financial life will start to change. I have seen this happen dozens of times. Someone who is struggling financially makes a decision to change. They educate themselves, they take action, and over time, their financial situation transforms. Not overnight, not magically, but systematically, consistently. They build something, and within a few years, their life looks completely different. This is not luck. This is not privilege. This is simply the result of decision and consistent action. You are capable of the same thing. Your story does not have to be a story of financial struggle. It can be a story of financial progress. It can be a story of overcoming obstacles. It can be a story of building wealth and security. But only you can write that story. It starts with a decision. And then it is followed by consistent action. Every single day, you have the opportunity to make a financial decision that moves you closer to your goal or further away from it. The accumulation of these small daily decisions is what creates your financial life. So start today. Make one financial decision today that is better than the decisions you made yesterday, and then do the same tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. And over time, you will look back and realize how far you have come. Your money story can be rewritten. It can be a story of success. You have the power to make that happen. Today, we covered 12 principles that can transform your financial life. Your money is a tool, not a measure of your worth. What you keep is more important than what you earn. Debt is not a tool for the poor. It is a trap for the unprepared. Every purchase is a choice about your future. Wealth is built by keeping more, not earning more. Time is your most valuable asset. Your financial plan should include life beyond money. Your beliefs shape your financial life. Money management is a skill that can be learned. Your income has a ceiling unless you build leverage. Rich people think about systems, not spending. And your financial story does not have to continue as it has been. You have the power to change it. I know that some of what you heard today might feel overwhelming. Financial change takes time. It takes effort. It takes consistency. But it is possible, and it is absolutely worth it. The freedom that comes from financial stability, the peace of mind that comes from understanding money, the options that come from building wealth, these are worth the effort. If this video has been helpful to you, please click the like button. It helps us reach more people who need this information. And please subscribe to the English Medium channel. We release videos every week about topics that matter to your life and your future. If there is a specific financial topic you would like us to cover, leave a comment below. I read every comment and I consider them for future videos. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for investing your time in learning about money. And thank you for being part of the English Medium community. I will see you in the next video. Keep learning. Keep growing. And most importantly, keep taking action toward your financial freedom.